Hi, it's been a minute. I don't remember the last time I streamed, but I know it's been a minute. So, um, in the grand scheme of things, not much more has happened since we last left off, I think. Well, I guess a lot has happened in some senses of the word, but essentially, um, as you might be able to tell, this is a completely different game I've got, or excuse me, mod from the normal Pokemon mod I play. And title's a bit different, and this comes after a video called like Postmortem or something like that. So, a little bit different. But essentially, this is, well, it doesn't matter too much. This is mostly on as background noise, but essentially, I have been working on my social deduction game. I It's a bit difficult to exactly get into detail for a variety of reasons, some of which being ooh, some of which being that I don't really I don't entirely know what I'm doing yet in that realm. I can't tell you what the final product's gonna look like, but it's something that I feel very passionate about, and as such want to I want to start preparing myself a little bit because um how exactly to phrase this? I am making this game because I like to make I like the social deduction genre. I played it when I was what, somewhere between like 9 to 12. That's when I first started. So it's been a minute. Well, I shouldn't ask a robot his age, but it's been at least 10 years. More than that, but I'll just leave it to your imagination, I suppose. Um, so it's something that I've been enjoying for more than a while now. And it's something that I think I can make a decent, the hell is that thing? Iteration of my own creation. Because there's a lot of exploration that is this a snubble? Huh. That could be done that people really haven't, and I want to change that. So I'm going to change that. I don't think it's going to be the most revolutionary game, despite what I just said, but I think that there's a lot of small ways to improve on the genre, on the formula, that I can take advantage of that I think might translate well to a streaming platform, to the I don't want to quite say genre of streaming, but to medium, I guess, is maybe a slightly better way of putting it. And it's something that I think here's the thing, right? I've watched a video less. Oh God, I'm lagging. Not a great viewing experience. This is mostly on just as background noise, like in those TikToks where they have people playing Minecraft, doing parkour challenges or whatever. You get to watch me play Cobblemon for the next. How long has this been? Like 5 minutes? Yeah, like 5 minutes. So you get to just watch me play this for whatever. Or you can just treat it like a podcast, honestly. Treating it like a podcast is probably fine. Like, you're not really gonna be missing out on too much if you're not interested in watching me play Gobblemon for the next like 30 minutes to an hour. I don't know how long this stream is gonna be. I'm gonna talk until I am finished talking. But essentially, so I was watching this video in Blood on the Clock Tower. I'll try to remember to put a link to it in the description, but as somebody who is making the social deduction game, and I mentioned in the past working on, I think I mentioned it, working on the Discord bot to play like social deduction games, and that got mostly completed, but I just never felt like it was in a state that I would want to necessarily share it into the world. I think it felt more like a mini game than a game. I mean, then again, Among Us kind of has that feel as well of kind of being more like a mini game in some kind of larger game. But in spite of that, still managed to capture a lot of success. But regardless, I can do better. Not than Among Us. At least I don't think I can do better than Among Us. Fucking seen Among Us, that shit's crazy. Amount of success it's gathered. Good on those devs. Um, but better than the bot. I it's still reliant on Discord, unfortunately, because as it turns out, streaming video is a difficult thing to program, and I'm just not that capable yet. I'm using the gaming engine Godot, which is not exactly built for that sort of thing. I think Unity might have better features, but not as comfortable with Unity as I am with Godot. I'm just starting out, mind you. I'm not like an expert developer or an expert game developer. I made a couple um, amateur programs for myself for convenience's sake, but never anything too large. Besides the Discord bot, which was a lot of work, but I kind of cranked out about 90% of the Discord bot in about like a week or so. Yeah, it's about a week, maybe like a week to a month, somewhere in that range. I got it to around, I'll say, 90% completion, somewhere in that realm. I'd still say it's around 90% completion, but probably more like 95% now, as opposed to like a straight 90. Uh, but it's something that I think is inherently streaming better suits the social. No, I shouldn't say that. So that's the thing, right? Like you look at games like Goat Simulator, you look at games like Among Us, you look at games like I don't know, there's a bunch of like not very good games out there that have reached a lot of success, which I'm not saying that Among Us is a not great game. I don't think it's as good as it could have been necessarily, but it Among Us is a solid game for what it is. But regardless, streaming and um, having the ability to some games work better as a platform for a streamer than as a game themselves. Some games are very good games and work very well as a platform for a streamer. It just depends on the game, the streamer, the audience of the streamer. It depends on a lot, right? Like there's Goat Simulator is like, well, look at this wacky, buggy game, right? Like what is the point in Goat Simulator? It's to run around and maybe have some fun, and that's fun as a player for like maybe for most people for like 5 to 10 minutes, maybe for being generous. Like Goat Simulator is not a great game if we're being honest. It's good for what it is. Again, it's a platform. A way for a streamer to it's a way for a streamer to bounce off of, like in programming, there's an idea of the rubber ducky. I don't know if this is exclusively a programmer thing. It might also be like a STEM thing more generally, but the idea is, um, you have like a little rubber ducky and you're in the bath and you're talking to the rubber ducky and you're describing your problem. You're bouncing off this rubber ducky like it's a real person, and it's very similar to that. You know, you're treating this game as though it's a real game, even though it's kind of not a real game. It's not something that you're interacting with genuinely, and that's all right because there's still value there. So when I say that I want um my game to be kind of a platform for like social interaction, I want it to work well in that sort of sense. I want, like, if you have your friends, this will be a fun game, which I'm gonna get back to that in a second. Why normally I think games shouldn't be designed that way, but why this one is okay, a little better, okay, designed that way. I mean, as you can tell, I don't particularly have a script for this. I'm trying to get a little better at just off the cuff talking. It's something that, again, I'm gonna get around to why exactly I I'm I want to get back into streaming some more because I want to be able to act as I want to. This game is it's a platform to host these social interactions. There's certain types of games. I think that um, Mafia is a type of game that requires a sort of social, not necessarily decorum, but some kind of shared social experience. If you are, shares that thing. If you are at like a convention or whatever, if you are at a local gaming store and you someone says, "Hey, let's play some werewolf, let's play some mafia, let's play some blood on the clock tower," there's kind of a shared social expectation, right? But if you were to walk into literally just a random room of people, uh, I don't know, you're at a like not a game conference, but you're at like a work conference and you've been expected to play this game as an icebreaker. Well, there's like a social expectation that you don't be a dick about it, right? Like you don't like the best way to play Mafia, especially with people who are inexperienced with Mafia, is to just go full ham. You know, just lie, socially manipulate, get upset, get angry, make wild declarations. Do whatever you can to better your position, especially as a Mafia. And you know, it doesn't necessarily make for a great first experience. It doesn't particularly, it can make for a good watching experience, definitely, but it's not something, mm, unless everybody is kind of coming in with expectation that the game will be played this way, then it's, it can be off-putting, you know? So, in that sense, it requires a sort of social contract, I guess is maybe the better way of putting it. So, as opposed to trying to make this into a game with online multiplayer that you can, oh, it's a Caps Kid, um, that anyone can jump in and play automatically and have a great time. I've given up all pretense of this game having that sort of wide-reaching appeal, as it were. I don't know that's exactly the word I'm looking for, but having there should be some sort of social contract when you play this game, and in that sense, um, it is the type of situation that is very good for streaming because there's a type of social contract. Do it for the bit. It- we've got to make our audiences entertained. I think social deduction works very well in two senses, right? When it comes to that, it can uh, when everyone's friends together and there's a common understanding for how these games should be played, whether that be, everybody is coming together to make a very competitive, just as an example, like Super Smash Brothers tournament or whatever. Like, cool, yeah, we're on the same page. We could have a good time. We're in this together with a shared social contract. You can play this game super casually with, items and final smashes or whatever. I'm not a big Smash guy, but there's that way of playing the game. Or you can say, like, everybody's coming in super competitively, we're turning off items, we're sweating as hard as possible, ledge guarding and naring our enemies to victory or whatever, right? But when you have people like those two in the same tournament, that makes it a little more difficult. So there are a lot of different ways to play Mafia. It is something that has grown through many iterations and copies and um, interpretations of what the game should be. And Blood on the Clock Tower is a very good social version of that. Very, like, I don't want to say friend compatible necessarily. That's a very odd way of putting what I'm trying to say. But, how should I word this? It is very, hmm, compatible, not, hmm, right. So there's a sort of role playing aspect around it. Like it manages the weakness of not having of necessitating this social contract by having a moderator who can kind of are they called are the storyteller game something. Hold on, let me go look this up real fast. um Blood on the Clock Tower storyteller, execute the storyteller, what what does that mean? Yeah, storyteller. So their job is to kind of merge the social contract aspect of this game with the kind of storytelling aspect of the game, with the sort of um, because it's a very dynamic position to be in. The ability to guide the game, the ability to kind of see where people are, the ability to kind of moderate the game and kind of make it a little more fair and balanced. It's the way of simultaneously managing, like I said, the social expectations, the social contract necessary to play this game without, pissing people off. It's both a crutch and a strength in that um, this position exists, and I think it's very clever for what it's doing. But I want to kind of go very similar. I want to manage. Get out of here, little shitter. I want to manage that idea of a storyteller, which is makes for an interesting game between friends, between people with a shared social contract. This is somebody who can enforce that social contract with a, should I call it a moderator? I'm not really sure what I'm going to call this role yet, but it's a very similar type of position where there are, oh, it's a bunch of Pokemon. They are somebody who, oh, look at that, who is in charge of the game, in charge of making sure it runs smoothly, ensures that it is first of all there's no bugs because it's audio visual, um who is able to kind of put on a show, right? Because there's kind of two ways to deal with a fundamentally broken system like Mafia. One is to kind of embrace it and say, we're here for a story. This is a somewhere between like a role playing game and the social deduction game. And there's another way of going about it, which is embracing the kind of um the showmanship of it, right? The story, but less the role playing and more the uh, spectacle, as it were. And the moderator is a lot less important in this version of the game, my version of the game, insofar as won't necessarily be making the choices that a like a storyteller would to like guide the story, but more to introduce um like third party third effects third party effects. Yeah, I guess that's a good way of putting it. Less it's difficult because I don't want to exactly give up the jig yet. There are certain aspects of my game similar to other games, and I think some aspects of my game that really enhance what I'm trying to talk about here. You know, the sort of platform for allowing people to bounce off of the spectacle. You know, that's what Goat Simulator is. It's a spectacle. It allows people to be like, haha, wow, look at this silly goat thing. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's when all your game is that. It's not a very good game. It's very good streaming. Um, again, platform. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if that's all you have, ooh, this is not going well for me. Then you're not going to have longevity. Among Us kind of allows for this in some sort of aspects, insofar as um, it's not something of exact. This is something that I've thought about in that sense, but it's not something that I've necessarily put into words before. So I'd appreciate if you were to. When I say this, it's very difficult finding words sometimes. What was that? That's another Dream Dairy. Oh, by the way, this is. I've also got the Gravelmons mod, Gravel mod mod installed, which has a bunch of fan game Pokemon. Some of them are cool. Some of them are a little interesting. I think they all have pretty decent designs for the most part. But sorry about that plane as well. Helicopter, perhaps. But where is I? Oh yeah, my game. Uh, it's just so difficult talking. Maybe I should have waited a little bit longer, gotten a little closer to release. Because here's the thing, right? What's my dream dairy? Dream dairy? Yeah, I don't know. I doubt anyone's gonna like swoop in and take these ideas from me from the last second. But at the same time, I do kind of want it to be. I guess somebody's watching this. Should I just go for it? Well, there's gonna be some aspects similar to other Mafia games. Like, it really, um, one thing I was struggling with my Discord bot was the idea of how do I make this interesting as a platform for streamers when half the game you're going to be out, you're going to be dead. That's not super interesting. Well, the idea I had originally from my Discord bot was, well, I'll allow the ghosts to sort of act as spectators and have them be able to enact minor changes onto the game state. I'll have them, kind of be able to mess with the bad guys or the good guys to make it more interesting. And, I'll have them be able to place bets on who wins, and you can use points based on the bets to buy question mark. I hadn't really gotten that far. I had maybe set up some systems. That's part of the 5% I hadn't coded yet, but it's something that I had sort of had some ideas to plan around, but I don't think we're necessarily as strong as the way Blood on the Clock Tower has it, where you can still talk. You can still discuss with the other townspeople. You can still vote once, which I think is definitely an interesting ability. And in my new game, I was like, well, shit, that's a really good way of dealing with it. You know, like when you die, you're out. How do you deal with that? Well, you're not out. I have the way that Blood on the Clock Tower deals with it is very good for a group of friends again, kind of furthering the idea that I'm getting at, where you're still in pretty much. You don't get any more new information. You have some limitations as to your effect on the game, but you're still there and a very large part of the game. Well, I think that it's kind of goes against or A goes against the flavor of the game, and B doesn't really necessarily feel as impactful as it should be to be able to just get out and still be able to talk. So I have an idea of getting around that. I have an idea to um make choosing like in Blood on the Clock Tower, a very valid strategy is I no longer have any useful information. If you vote me out, it's not a detriment to the town, so just go ahead and vote me out. And, after you vote me out, then we can vote out this other guy. Kind of a tit for tat, but that feels very, um, again, not very flavorful. It's not that interesting. It's not that impactful as I would want it to be necessarily. So I've devised a system that I think should spice up the decision making on an individual basis, as it were. Like, do I really want to give up my position here for the betterment of the town, where perhaps the town will win even if we don't vote me out? And make that a decision. Like, it will be less good for me if we were to do this. So I think I'm going to kind of hold on to this piece of information or this voting me out. I'm going to fight against it, even though it might be better for the town. But I have kind of my own goals, so have. I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to choose that path, as it were. You can still go down that path and still win, and um, still make that decision. It adds more of a decision making process to that sort of, which feels like it should be a pivotal moment for that individual. So I want to make it feel like a pivotal decision. So that's something that I've worked on, and I think I have a decent solution for it. We'll see. Uh, but yeah, that's another kind of way I think of making it. Ooh, of of making sure that it's decent for like a streaming platform for streamers. Because if you're an individual townsperson and you just don't have that much information, and the only point of interest from your point of view is like, well, person A says person B is lying, and person B says person A is lying, and I'm not really involved in this. But if you have to consider, if there's some individual competing goals in mind, perhaps it's not that easy. Perhaps that adds a more interesting layer to the stream. And I've gotten some preliminary feedback, precursor feedback, that might make it a little difficult to watch, might make it a little complicated. That's something that I'm keeping an eye on. I think there's um levels of difficulty that this sort of thing can add. So, but we'll see. We'll see how much it does, where we land there. But I think the general system should be should be interesting. I'm not exact. There are some things in that sort of realm where I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna balance it. Like I do like the one last vote system from Blood on the Clock Tower, but I also don't really want to just straight rip it off. But at the same time, it is a very good system. I'm not entirely sure it fits with my goal for my game. Maybe, I just say you can't vote, but you can still talk and give advice and see where we go from there. See whether that needs to be buffed or nerfed or wherever that particular system has to go. That I don't really want to call it death because if you're still talking and have some impact on the game, it's really no longer death, is it? But it's something that is kind of an important part of these games, so it's something that I'm keeping an eye on. In that same sense, I really do wish that I had an ability to have a is inline the right word? I think inline would be. Why is this fucking opinion not being hot? Um, inline webcon video conferencing, video conferencing solution because I'd love to be able to like mess with people's cameras and audio and stuff. Just not like not, in the sense that like we could have a hey, he's human. Could have someone who actually I don't really know entirely how much that would add to the game now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, like, what is a mafia role that, like, makes someone's screen darker really do? I guess maybe I could, like, change people's voices. Maybe could allow someone to sound like somebody else. I don't know. That would require a lot of work now that I'm kind of thinking about it. But it's an idea that I would like to have in the back of my pocket, as it were. An idea that I think is an interest. You little shit. That I'd rather have than not have. But the again, you can see I'm not super. I don't have like a solid idea for how useful that would be. It's mostly so that I wouldn't be consigned, forced to um. What is Venom Drench? Does Venom Drench just poison him? Can you not poison? Can you not poison a fairy typer? Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh my god. Um. So that it feels just a little weird being forced to use Discord. So having the ability to not necessarily need to use Discord would be it would be nice. Especially because it helps. I have some ideas for how you would stream this game. I'm trying to again, plan around a little bit. It should be a fine game to play without streaming. It should be something that you only play with your friends. You probably shouldn't play with like random online people. Again, there has to be some sort of social contract for this game to be, I'll say, interesting, fun, worthwhile, which I don't know, you know, again, something where like just planning your game to be interesting to be streamed is not inherently a good it's not inherently a good thing, it's not inherently a bad thing. It's just a thing. And I think that given the state of the genre of social deduction, that's it would be a good social deduction game regardless of whether or not you streamed it. So in that sense, yeah, cool. but I also don't necessarily think that it's something that I would recommend people like go to a convention and play. But I'm kind of losing. Isn't there like a big ass cardboard mon around here somewhere? Oh, I love this Pokemon. I love smells. It turns into a cigarette. It sounds like I'm just fucking making up shit. But I do actually really love the final evolution of this Pokemon. It's very cool. It is in fact a Pokemon called Cigar Rat, and it's great. I love it so much. Well, I say Pokemon, I guess technically Fakemon. Um, where that big ass Pokemon went? I guess maybe it just despawned. That's sad. I didn't mean to hit you. Sorry there, you little Spearow. Whatever it's called. I could talk about this all day, but I really can't because, as I've mentioned it before, I'm in school. I've bought myself a bit of a reprieve when it comes to homework and exams and stuff. So I'm spending some of this time here talking to you, giving you updates. I don't really want to stream more because, again, I really do need to solidify the role of the moderator of the my games version of the storyteller. I think I'm going with kind of a mixed kind of role, which will make more sense later down the line if this ever really comes to fruition. But oh, it's a torchic. In essence, I'm the idea of a moderator, somebody who can again deal with bugs, deal with unintentional player inputs, deal with putting on a show, as it were. You know, like when what is this? Is this a room bug or something? What the fuck is this? It's a Pikachu? What the shit is this? That's a Pikachu? Sure, whatever. I just completely lost my train of thought there. Um, but um, so yeah, it's something I need to also kind of solidify in my head and in the game is the role that I would be playing, but the general role is a facilitator. It's somebody who is introducing the first act. It's somebody who is um when the game slugs down a little bit is coming in and giving it a slight push. You know, I hadn't really planned on this, but I'm getting a decent idea that I'll just say out here. Maybe this will get into the game, maybe it won't. But I'm kind of digging the idea of like the moderator kind of imposing because in Blood on the Clock Tower, the storyteller is kind of this not an unseen hand necessarily, but kind of not even like unseen hand, puppet master, um, guiding force. Like these are all kind of words that come to my head that don't necessarily describe the moderator's role in the game, the storyteller's role in that game, but come close to doing so. And in my game, I want it to be more of somebody outside an outside force, you know, somebody who is um a force of nature, is not something storyteller can be kind of planned around and in Blood on the Clock Tower, they're doing things for very specific reasons. The storyteller is saying like, all right, well, the mafia is kind of falling behind. So what we're going to do to make it a little more even is we're going to like give the town indirectly a disadvantage. We're going to even the playing field. We're going to make a more interesting story. I kind of want to do the opposite, and so very similar, but kind of the opposite insofar as like I and this so the storyteller has kind of like this and Blood on the Clock Tower has this role in the game where they kind of control the flow of information, but in my game, I kind of want it to be more of a you are now dealing with this situation, right? Like a bit of a whirlwind where you can never be sure if the reason why this is happening is because somebody's losing, if something just entirely unplanned for is happening. It's to make it a better viewing experience, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Which at the end of the day is kind of what I'm trying to get at, right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a balanced game, which the storyteller is a crutch for that. Not necessarily a crutch, but a huge balancing element in that respect. That is a large reason why the storyteller exists in Blood on the Clock Tower. There's been a lot of balancing efforts. Fuck. Otherwise, in Blood on the Clock Tower, and I don't mean it's a poorly balanced game that is sad upon the shoulders of the storyteller. Like, that's not what I'm trying to get at. But, um, the idea as a storyteller is a balancing element, right? It's to make it more balanced and fun for everybody. Whereas the moderator in my game, the host, maybe I'll go with host. Yeah, I kind of dig host. The host in my game is supposed to make it more bombastic, more spectacular, um more of a play than a story. The Blood on the Clock Tower is like to compare it to forms of media is more like a children's storybook, not insofar as um, themes or child friendliness or anything like that. Though it definitely does have more of a feeling of that sort of way, but um, the storyteller in Blood on the Clock Tower is kind of slowly pushing things along, like, well, the mafia has too much of a lead, so what we'll do is we'll give the good guys some good information, we'll send them on a quest, see if they can figure it out, we'll give them a solid chance. Whereas in my game, it doesn't really matter who's winning or losing. The idea is to create spectacle, makes something interesting to watch. And I think in that sense, it doesn't. That's why when I say, it's for streaming, a platform for streaming, a medium for stream, not necessarily medium, but, a springboard for streaming. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at a little bit. That's the design goal, is to kind of facilitate those interactions. And um, I like, oh, do I have one of these? I don't think I do. Um, what was it getting at? Um, Sorry, I got really distracted with the Chimera Pidgeotto. It's very cool. Um, Damn it. Sorry, give me a second. I'm trying to catch this Pidgeotto. Come on. What if I can catch it now? I'll use an Ultra Ball. Come on. I believe in you. Get in there. Yeah. Okay, cool. It's a play, right? So it's supposed to be interesting to watch, which I think is interesting enough in a... What the hell is this? Is that a Pichu version of the Pikachu? Yeah, it's interesting. I think I already have one of those Goomies. It's fine. It's in sort of the same way that a shitty multiplayer game can be fun because it is multiplayer. I want it to be interesting in that sense. And I think if you solely balance it around that, that's kind of a poor idea. But the idea is that if people aren't having just fun, then you can also there's still ways that they can deal with that. But predominantly, the idea is that they're able to. Hmm, predominantly, the idea is that they're able to. That's a bit rough. Sort of balance it around a third party. Like how interesting of a story is this? Which again is not too dissimilar from the storyteller from Blood on the Clock Tower, but there are some distinct differences. Like a Blood on the Clock Tower storyteller would probably not want to necessarily like push the game along unnecessarily, as it were. They would want to more like mm, encourage the players. I would think. I'm not a Blood on the Clock Tower expert. That's what it feels like to me. That's kind of like the vibe I get. Whereas the host in my game, it acts as a is more of like a director, right? I think maybe that's the better way of writing of describing it, where the storyteller is writing a story, the host is um, producing the movie, which again is kind of a subtle difference, but an important one to make, I think, nonetheless. And I think, again, this is something that I've just kind of come up with while talking about all of this, is the idea that, you can have, like, I don't know, this round of talking lasts half as long, or you need two less votes this round to get somebody voted out, or um, everybody gets random abilities this time around, or whatever, something like that. Which I'm not 100% on this quite yet, but I have the framework to allow for something like this, and I think it would be an interesting watch. Which, at the end of the day, again, is kind of what I'm aiming for with this. Is it interesting to watch? Because at the end of the day, that is kind of the most important thing for a lot of reasons for this game. It's spectacle. Um it's the uh what's that one game series called? Warriors. I mostly think of like the Hyrule Warriors, but I think there's another. uh, um Dynasty Warriors. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the spectacle. It's all about the cool moves that lead into more cool moves. You're beating up like hundreds of thousands of guys or whatever. Which I guess that's not a direct comparison to my game, but I think it's the general idea of what I'm trying to get across is hopefully coming across. I think there was like one more general idea I wanted to talk about. Oh, right. So, in that sense, it's important to have somebody who um, is a good showman as the host, which is something that I'm gonna try to get better at. Like, I don't know, like, what do I think I would need to do to get better at that sort of a thing? I'm honestly not really certain. It feels like the type of thing that, like, okay, that like, you almost kind of want somewhere between, like, an esports caster, just a like host for an event, right? Like a host for like a party or something is what I mean. And somebody who is able to technically manage the game because I suspect there will be some bugs to start off with. It's I don't want to say ambitious for kind of a first-ish project, but there's always bugs with this type of stuff, and having somebody with the tools to be able to manage them while also being able to manage the social aspect of it is important. So it's something that I want to get better at, just talking and commentating, and that's something I'm going to need to figure out how best to practice those sorts of skills. I have kind of thought about just a llama in there, about just commentating on esports or something like that, or trying to play like a very fast, intense game while holding a decent conversation or like explaining what is happening. That's something that, as you may have noticed, I get distracted very easily at the best of times. So having that ability would be important, but um, something that I don't think I have to worry about for a minute. I mean, this is all. I'm not worried that I can't do it. I definitely wish I was able to, as I said, kind of manage the video and audio in game, because it feels something sort of tacky about not having that in game, and something unfortunate about being forced to rely on Discord. But like, what can you really do, right? I have some workarounds to kind of be able to mess with video and audio. I'm not sure how well they'll work, so I'm not, I don't want to put any guarantees on it, but I have some ideas for how I might be able to get something like that to work as kind of a secondary system. Like, I kind of wanted to do a similar point setup to where I was talking about before, where like if you win games, you get points, and points do certain things. Like you can, I don't know, give yourself filters, or I don't know, make people's videos turn silly for a while or whatever. I don't know, but it's not something I'm too worried about necessarily. Not something I think is mandatory for the game for the best experience. But again, it'd be nice to have. To me, oh fucking hell, the lag. It's all the particle effects in this village causing a bunch of lag. It doesn't help that I have Godot Editor open and like a million tabs on Chrome, which I probably should have closed, but I was like, yeah, I'll just keep it open. I don't know how long I'm streaming. Oh, I do think I've gotten most of what I wanted to say across. The idea that this is. Actually, there is one thing I didn't quite say is that I want this game to. My mission statement in making this game. The like one line I want to use in my development process is it good to watch? Because I think if it's good to watch, then good to play will kind of follow. Like even if you're not streaming, I think if it's an interesting, like if you would watch it back with your friends later on and be like, "Oh wow, like this is kind of silly. This was an interesting thing that happened." Then I think I will have succeeded in making it a good game, which is kind of a high bar to try to achieve, honestly. I feel completely 100% honesty here, out of my depth in a lot of senses. I don't feel like. See, now maybe I'm getting too like about me instead of the project. I don't know. I always find it interesting when people, um, when they're making things, describe how they're feeling and describing what led them to creating it, and um, there are places where they're confident, places where they're insecure, because it humanizes them a bit. And I don't know that I feel like everybody feels that way necessarily, so I don't know that I want to start getting into like, my my insecurities and stuff. And I don't even I mean about like making this game. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about like, even if I make this game, will people want to play it? Which that's the eternal that is the 2 FPS. Again, treat it like a podcast. The eternal problem of like, will anybody enjoy this thing that I'm doing, that I'm creating? I don't know. The only thing you can do is make it and hope it turns out all right. But it's kind of a double whammy because it's like amateur game dev, which it almost feels weird to call myself a game dev in that regard, because it's not like, the back of my brain is telling me you're not a real game dev. Like this isn't a real game. You're doing like a mini game. You're doing it's not it's not really like a game. But I think that's being unfair to myself. And I think that by saying that, that's not fair to people who are doing similar things to me that I would personally 100% consider game developers. And I don't even necessarily mean like video game developing necessarily, just, game developing, which includes like, board games, card games, whatever. Because I'm not sure that this 100% qualifies as. I mean, I guess it qualifies as a video game. I don't really know, but it's like, I want it to be a success, but at the same time, I'm worried that like the game is gonna find success, but I'm not gonna be a good enough host, or I'm gonna take this on, and I plan on inviting I shouldn't say literally random streamers. I'm planning on putting out, feelers. I don't really know. I only know a couple streamers slash VTubers, people in that realm, but I don't want to like bug people with that. Like I'm definitely gonna play test this with my friends first, but I don't want to take up too much of their time, like forcing them to play test with this for me. Yeah, I'll probably play it a couple of times so I can get a decent idea, like maybe 2 or 3 times. But that's because I know they like games like this, so I don't necessarily feel bad with playing it a couple of times and we have some fun or whatever, which is normally what happens when we play games, anyways. But ultimately, my point being, there's so many different ways this goes wrong. And I don't have that much time in the first place necessarily. So that's like another worry is, do I have the time to be able to do this? Do I have the ability to be able to do this? I don't know. I honestly don't really know, but I think all of my favorite creators were bad at something once, right? Like, eh, if this is bad, then I just move on with life and try something else. I tried streaming and video creating, and the first video I made, well, it wasn't the first, believe it or not, but got like 100 something views, so like that's pretty decent, right? I think if I had continued down that path and talked about VTubing stuff and worked on my I think my thumbnail for that video wasn't too bad. I'm readjusting my ears. What are you doing over here, guy? I think I probably could have been a successful video creator, which is maybe kind of an egotistical thing to say, but I mean that video got like 100 something views. I think I could have followed some bandwagons, followed some breaking news, followed some passive things, and reached probably not like internet famous, but like have maybe a couple hundred subscribers and have like a small devoted fan base or whatever, which would have been nice. But at the end of the day, those videos take so long to create and edit. That one wasn't even that long, but by God, was it such a pain in the butt to make. It took me so long to make that video. I just couldn't do it between school and work and my sanity. Just absolutely not something I could have done. I just valued other things with my time more. I think there's a decent possibility I could have done it. Like I had to view videos, ideas, and the processing. I think I even had like a video written and about like 60% edited, but I was like, I don't care that much about this. Like if my heart's not in this, why am I doing this? Because that was a video I did have an interest in creating, the one that I did make, but then I also had some videos like what is a VTuber agency? What are the chances of becoming a popular VTuber? I think it ultimately comes down to a lot of what I'm saying here is that the chances not very good. Chances not very good for this game becoming popular. Chances not very good for this game being a good game even necessarily, because especially it's my first one, all things considered. Maybe like 1.5 if you consider the Discord mod. I have a bit of a leg up insofar as I'm very familiar with the genre, and I maybe have a bit of experience with the programming language, but it's not very likely if I work on it for a while and really make sure that it does what I want it to do. Sure, maybe it'll be decent one day, but I think by itself, not too likely. Um, not too likely to bring on other people, be able to bring on other people, not to get people too interested in it, as it were. I plan on putting out feelers and look at that. That's interesting. And like the VTuber subreddit and Discord, and just put out a general call on Twitter for people who would be interested in that sort of a thing. And I don't plan on how do I word this? I don't plan on making it like a big event. Like I understand I'm not a big VTuber. Uh, we'll just see where it goes, as it were. Just have a couple of nights where um, I invite some VTubers over into my Discord and see how it goes. No, the very first one will probably not be public, and then see how fun it is, see how we vibe with each other, that sort of a thing. And then if people have an interest of it being streamed, I can stream it. Oh wait, it's already poisoned. I can't stream it. Shit. I'll just do that. But yeah, so just kind of take it slow with regards to that, especially because I've also gone back and forth on whether I plan on streaming it. I think the answer is yes, so people can kind of get a better idea of the systems and see what's going on with the kind of game at large, as opposed to just a singular point of view. I think that makes it more interesting, which I think is, for a lot of social deduction games, a big problem is not being able to see the bigger picture, especially when somebody is a townsperson, essentially. Somebody's, especially with just Mafia, there's really no point to streaming like individual Mafia. What is happening? Viewpoints, because it's just not that interesting usually. Like, there's no point in doing it. There's always a worry of people stream sniping or chat snitching, whatever. So it's something worth that, like, that's a point of consideration. But again, that's part of that social contract. Oh, excuse me, social contract where there's no real way to prevent that in this sort of genre. So you just kind of assume people won't do it, and if you find out somebody is doing it, then they've broken the social contract, kick them out, essentially. Maybe give them a warning if they were, this was the first time, or, you know, um, there's a variety of reasons. I don't need to start getting into this right now, but I hope what I'm saying is making sense. I'm rambling. I ramble a lot. Forgive me. Look at that. What was I talking about? I just completely lost the train of thought there. Um, that's a cute little guy. I was talking about like people cheating, but I don't think that's the point I was trying to get at. More, just, oh yeah, I was talking about my worries. That is a part of my worries. People cheating. But again, there's really nothing you can do about that. I think that's probably talking too fast. I think that cheating is probably one of my least worries, just in the grand scheme of things. Because again, at the end of the day, if a good story is made, then a good story is made, you know? Which I understand is kind of a weird stance to have towards cheating, and it's not so, again, if somebody is cheating, they will be kicked out, but um, it's not. How do I word this exactly? My concern isn't balance. My concern is the play, is the story, is the. Is that a softball? Is the viewing experience and the playing experience by proxy of the viewing experience. because at the end of the day, streamers play games to stream them. You know, sometimes. er, Sorry, did I have that way the wrong way around? Um, at the end of the day, streamers stream games to an audience is what I'm trying to get at. They stream games to stream them. You know, when they are playing a game on stream, they are streaming them. That is different from playing a game. And I don't mean that as a tacit approval of cheating, quite the opposite. Because if somebody wins every coin flip, every challenge, then that's no fun. If they didn't deserve a win, that's not fun. That's not a good viewing experience. So in that sense, cheating not good, but also cheating very down on the priority list to where I'm not particularly worried about it. With these types of games, it's not something that you can plan around. That you have to acknowledge that it might happen. But at the end of the day, if somebody is coming into this social contract with that sort of attitude, there's just not that much you can do about it. In all honesty, if somebody wants to cheat, they'll find a way to cheat. I have placed a lot of attention and interest, thought around security, which, you know, it's like a mafia game. How bad it can it be? But you know, Godot is kind of a newer engine, so it's always best to just be on the lookout for that type of a thing. And it is Discord based, so you know, if somebody were to get in maliciously, that could, I guess, leak a Discord ID. But I know that's not too much of a worry, but it's just something worth keeping in mind. So that's something that I'm also thinking about, trying to make it customizable, so you don't necessarily just have to run it on one Discord, or don't just necessarily need one like bot. That way you can multiple people can perhaps run it instead of just being reliant on my particular Discord bot. Something I'm looking into as well. But I'm getting away from the point again, insofar as the point is to make a good show, make a good stream, and I hope I can do that. That's the hope. Is that I just hope I can put on a good viewing experience. Hope I can put on a good streaming experience. I hope I can put on a good gameplay experience. I hope that people will enjoy it. At the end of the day, I think I said this about the video I made before, about the VTuber one. Um, that if like a couple of people enjoy it, that I'd be happy. And it's kind of funny to go back and look at the statistics on the video. If you look at the statistics on the video, maybe out of 120, 30 people, there's maybe two, three people that watch to the end. So if you're one of those people, bless your soul. You really do mean a lot to me, but it's kind of funny, you know. I figured 100 people, like, oh god, I'd be so happy if 100 people watched my video. But then you get 100 people watching your video, and it's like, I'm not this happy about this. It's kind of funny, you know. You just expect it to do a lot more than it should, which is why I'm trying to be kind of wary about this whole streaming, placing my criteria for success on other people this time around, because even though by objective standards, by any given measure of a amateur video creator, editor, thumbnail creator, the video did well, right? The VTubers, toxic positivity. That's a topic that I don't think too many other people have covered. I guess maybe by now they have. I don't know. On a topic that is relatively recent, toxic positivity. If you've not seen the video, is kind of as a concept a newer one, and I think it did a very good job covering it, in particular as to how it pertains to the VTuber community. Um, and I just still don't, I just didn't get what I wanted out of it. Am I going to get what I want out of this game? Well, I guess the answer is, what do I want out of this game? I think if on some level I meet some friends, that would be nice. If I make some friends, that is to say, I would be I would be happy. It'd be good for me. If people enjoy the game, I think that would make me happy. I don't know that that is the kind of lasting enjoyment that I'm looking for. If I play it with my friends a couple of times and everyone's like, yeah, that was pretty decent. I don't know. That's what I'm looking for. Even though maybe I should be. Maybe that's the kind of happiness and contentment I should be looking for. But I don't know that I'm the type of person that I can just accept that. I think I'm the type of person that needs to shoot for the stars, even though on some higher conscious level, I understand that the likelihood of that happening is close to nil. Sorry, I'm getting a Discord message. Is it important? Nope. Um, I understand that I, 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 I was, should I say, not quite recently, but at some point in the not so distant past, I was invited by a friend, close acquaintance, to a Discord server. Um, because I was curious about this. I was curious about something about a game, so we played the game for a while, and somebody somebody did something kind of odd for me, anyways. Something that I'm not super familiar with. And so far as they were asking questions about me, and I was like, "What is this? Like, why? What's happening here? Like, what is?" I'm barely thinking at this point because I'm playing this new game that is taking a lot of my attention that I'm not very familiar with. That other people are in this Discord call are very much more familiar with it. So they're talking, they're playing, they're laughing, making jokes, whatever. Like 100% of my brain right now is in this game. I can barely stream and talk most of the time. It feels like, let alone play this new game and consciously digest what is happening in both the game and what is being asked of me. But further down the line, I was thinking about it, and further down the line than that, I was thinking about it, and I keep thinking about it. And I don't know why I found it so odd, and then I realized that I don't remember the last time somebody just like asked me questions about myself, which is a very weird thought to have. Like I've always, when I've talked to other people, I don't know, maybe it comes off interrogative, like I'm interrogating them, which I certainly hope is not the case, because I don't know, I feel like, I ask pretty basic questions, like, so where do you grow up in, like, we're, I don't know, classmates, and I'm a project with them or whatever, trying to get to know somebody a little bit better. But I rarely get the same questions back, and I realized that this person had been doing to me what I'd been doing to other people, and I make that sound like a bad thing, but I felt kind of appreciated, you know? I felt like it was a good thing. I felt like somebody was interested in me. When I say interested, I should clarify. I don't mean, like, it's not like we're on a date. you know, like, but okay, I made that sound a little bit weird. Not like um we had specifically um meant to meet that day or whatever, right? It's I've never known this person before. I'm not. What am I trying to say? It felt nice having somebody show some platonic interest in me. Let's say that. I was like, this is something that is unfamiliar to me. And I think, in some sense, some vaguest sense, that's what I'm trying to achieve, which is maybe. Is this a real Pokemon? I think this. Oh, is this just a sound type? I guess it probably is not a Pokemon. But that it's a. I want you to be interested in me. I want to be an interesting person. I want. I want to be. I want more than anything just to be noticed. Which I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting into like sad territory now. Maybe I'm getting into like pitiable territory now. I want to be somebody who I can be proud of in 5, 10, 20 years. I want for me to not feel like I wasted a decade sitting and playing video games and being uncontent with life. Like I could have done so much more with my time. Like I don't remember any of the video games I played except for maybe a choice few, and um, regret it. You know, at the same time, it's difficult to sit down and make these choices, make the right choices, make the important choices. Homework versus working on personal projects versus spending time to get enough money to be able to not be fucking broke, to wanting to make friends, to it's hard. I don't know, that's not like a personal thing. Everyone has these problems, but I don't know. I think a lot more people have a lot more um, friends. I It's hard not to sit down and that's a lot tinier than it feels like. Did I already get one of them? I think I already. It's hard not to sit down and be like, why don't I have like people who like I hear about like sliding into DMs, which I know that's mostly for like women or whatever. But even for like guys, people, especially like streamers, VTubers, people coming into their DMs and asking about like stuff, and I'm like, that's pretty whatever. I hear about people saying they can imagine things in their head. It's like, oh, that's weird. I guess maybe they just mean figuratively. No, and I understand now it's like a real thing that people are able to do that I'm not able to do. I don't know, maybe it's just something that I just was born without the ability to do, you know? I don't know. I think loneliness is definitely becoming a bit of an epidemic in that regard. But that's another topic I could go on for hours about. I don't know. I'm spent here for an hour and a half. I think I've gotten most of my points about the game across. I think I've made my mission statement clear that I want to be better at being able to talk and stream at the same time. I think I've gotten a little better about that with this here. Maybe what I might do is just like once a week. I don't know what day. I don't want to make any commitments just yet, especially while I'm still. This is just one of those things where I just don't want to let life pass me by. Surely I would have just spent some time playing video games regardless. Maybe I just spend the time I was gonna spend playing those video games, streaming those games, getting better at like being a host. Maybe I can set some time aside to like, I don't know. I was gonna say casting some games, like StarCraft or like Overwatch or whatever, just on my own personal time. But A, I think there'd probably be some legal issues about that, and B, I don't think I particularly know any like individual game that I could cast that well. I don't know. Maybe I can find a something. Maybe I can just play a random game, see where that takes me. I don't know. Honestly, just I want to give this my best shot, but it feels difficult. Knowing exactly how much I can give. Both in terms of time, in terms of ability, in terms of what's the word I'm looking for? It's not quite. I really want to say care for some reason. Care isn't quite the right word. The the word I'm looking for is like when you. I mean, we only have so many like fucks we can give a day, right? At a certain point, I mean, maybe not everyone. Maybe some people are just constantly giving a fuck. But I know for me, there's only so many fucks I can give per day. I'm a tired person. I'm physically and emotionally tired pretty much just constantly. So giving a fuck is a difficult thing to do. So giving even a few of my fucks about something, including this game that I'm working on, and not Cobblemon, but the Mafia game, is a commitment. I moved into my apartment. Um, must have been about 3 months ago now, and the oven was disgusting. Just one of the most foul things I've seen. It looks like maybe they had taken like a wet rag and wiped it down, but it had so many grease stains on it. I turned it on and it smelled just awful. It took me 2, 3 hours to clean with the degreaser. I probably should have worn gloves, but I didn't. And it was one of the most miserable experiences of my life. It took me 3 months to do that. I did this yesterday. I I've been going without an oven essentially for like 3 months. And I like cooking. Um, have an over reliance on pre-made foods. I'll fully admit, just because time, giving a fuck. It's also like a mild, um, I'll say, what's it called? What's the meme? Hold on. What is that meme? See, this is what I'm talking about. Why I need to get better at hosting. See, I was stammering a bit there. I lost completely track of what I was gonna say. Just gotta come up with some shit. Just make up some words or whatever. But the fuck was I talking about? Talking about the oven. I was talking about being tired or some shit. Um, I was talking about why I eat prepackaged foods for whatever. I'm just, it's just effort. Oh no, I was looking for the term about I don't know what that meme is. I give up. I give up. You've won, internet. You've broken me. I'm truly an old man now. So that was better. That was a better response to forgetting it. Something I just need to work on. But anyways, yeah, so all things considered, I should probably call it soon. I'll make a commitment at some point in the near future to start working on my hosting skills a little bit better. I wonder if there is perhaps some particular thing I can start playing or looking into that might be beneficial in that regard. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. I'll have to think about it. But in any case, I'm going to honestly probably go and work on some homework and then maybe work on the game for like 30 minutes and then probably play some video games. I I'm just thinking about what I should be doing. Homework is definitely near the top of my list. Like I said, I'm kind of ahead right now, but I need to keep it that way. I've got something I need to do in the next week. That means I won't be able to really stream, even if I wanted to, even if I figured out what I wanted to be doing. Maybe I can, like, what I can do is outline the game a little bit more to make it a little more, give some more, like, particular developer commentary as to what I'm doing, the choices that I'm making. I have to think about it, but my brain is quickly turning to mush now, so I'm just gonna call it here. Thank you for sticking with me for an hour and a half of rambling. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoy my game whenever it comes out. If you stick with me on this journey, and have a good night.